Welcome back to the Ball Oasis show. Um, Last week, of course, we did the Eastern Conference standings, got a little bit of a rise out of those, and I expect a little even more this week as we're doing the Western Conference standings predictions.
Yep.
Now, I would assume almost everybody who watches our show is a fan of a Western Conference team. If you didn't know, me and Jacob are based out of basically Memphis, Tennessee. So we are surrounded by a lot of Memphis Grizzlies fans, and outside of Jacob, who's a Sixers fan, we don't really know that many Eastern Conference fans. I'm a Portland Trailblazers fan, and most of the people we know support Western Conference teams. So this should be the one that gets the rise out of the most people. I'm excited. I'm excited to do this today. Jacob, how you feeling?
I'm excited. My list's pretty controversial, I feel like. I'll get into detail later.
Yeah, we have our top 15 teams here. I don't even want to give anything away. I just want to get right into it because there's so much to talk about here. There's so much to unpack, especially with the top team. Before we start, I will say the Western Conference is not really like the Eastern Conference where it's super top heavy, where you've got those top three teams. In the Western Conference, you only probably have one or two teams who are outliers, and everybody else is just kind of in this pool in the middle where you could put them as high as the 3 seed or as low as like the 8 or the 9 seed. So
Yeah.
I expect me and Jacob's list to look very different. Been tweaking it all week. Without further ado, let's get started at number 15. Jacob, who do you have at the bottom of the Western Conference?
My number 15, I have the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
I have them because, I mean, full tank mode. You can say that about a lot of these bottom West teams. Keldon Johnson, of course, he'll have a lot more. Like, he'll have the ball a lot more, I'll say, because DeJounte is not there this year. Um, but I really think it's like a race to the number one pick this year in the West, like the bottom teams. I feel like.
Yeah, not much to be said about the Spurs. And news came out today Keldon Johnson has an injury going into
Yeah, I
training.
forgot about that.
He might be back by the start of the regular season, but I'm sure the Spurs will err on the side of caution with him. Coming in at number 15 for me, though, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder at number 15. I just think that they're still super, super young. And since they won't be able to have Chet Holmgren out on the floor this year, I just don't think they'll win a lot of games. I think if Shea Gilgeous-Alexander plays most of the season, they can be exciting. They've got Josh Giddey, who's into his second year now, who can be an exciting young player. They just re-signed Luke Dort. They've got some solid rookies coming in that I'm excited to watch. But I don't expect this team to be very competent at all. I only have them winning 21 games and finishing at the bottom of the Western Conference. So I'm gonna go ahead and get right into my number 14 since you mentioned them. The San Antonio Spurs are my number 14 team,
Okay.
and kind of after today, depending on how long Keldon Johnson is out, maybe they take that bottom spot. But I don't know. I think as long as Greg Popovich is your coach, I don't know if he's willing to really bottom out. I think he's going to try to compete with what he's got, unless he just wants to set up a rebuild for whoever's next in line. I've thought about that. I thought that might be a possibility, but I mean, why would he still be there? So I think that his team is going to try to compete, and I think just because some teams may be trying to lose out, I don't think the Spurs take that bottom spot. They've got some solid pieces, pieces that are likely to be traded, but the Spurs number 14, not really much to say about them.
Yeah, my number 14, I have the Utah Jazz. Um, I kind of mess with putting them a little bit higher, but I'm assuming that Jordan Clarkson, Mike Conley, and Malik Beasley will be traded before the start of the season, or partially into the season. Colin Sexton will have the ball a lot this year. We've seen what he can do before his injury. That's really about it with the Jazz. I just think they'll win a few more games than the Spurs. Like, I think I got them winning like two more games than the Spurs, around 22, 23.
Okay. I had the Spurs winning 25 games.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and give me your number 13, Jacob.
I have the Houston Rockets.
Okay.
Uh, Good young team. Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr. Forgot who they drafted. Jabari Smith Jr. and
Sorry, Eason.
Tari Eason. Yeah, so it's a good young team to watch. Fun young team. I just think they're real young. They got a lot of growing to do. I think if you give them a few more years, that young core could be not contenders in the West, but they could be in that play in range, maybe the 6 seed, the solid play-in playoff spot.
Yeah. Coming in at number 13 for me, I have the Houston Rockets as well. I think that their young core is exciting. I think they're a lot like the Detroit Pistons. I think that they have one of the most exciting young teams in the NBA. They just won't win a lot of games just because they're young. They don't have a lot of guys who really lock in on the defensive end. They're not a very big team, especially in the interior. Alperen Sengun is going into his second year, and he's really the only center they've got outside of Boban Marjanovic at this point. But Jalen Green, it's interesting to see what Josh Christopher will look like in his second year as well. I think that his minutes will increase. They still got Jayshawn Tate. Losing Christian Wood, we'll see how that affects them. But I like their rookies as well. I like Jabari Smith. I like Tari Eason. And I like Ty Washington. I think they'll all play some pretty significant minutes this year. I've got the Rockets coming in at 28 wins and being the number 13 seed in the West. And at number 12, I've got the Utah Jazz. I think the Jazz will be better than the three bottom teams, even though they will have guys be traded out.
Yeah.
I don't expect Jordan Clarkson to be a member of the Jazz come trade deadline. I don't expect Mike Conley to be a member of the Jazz come trade deadline. We just saw Bojan Bogdanovic be moved the other day to the Pistons. So it's clean house for the Utah Jazz, but I still think that the returns that they got are good enough to win them about 30 games. I think Colin Sexton is going to be a solid scorer on that team. I think they've got some solid length defensively with Stanley Johnson and Jared Vanderbilt and some guys like that. So I like a lot of players on their team. They won't be good by any stretch of the imagination, and maybe I'm overselling them a little bit just because of the names on their roster. But I think the Utah Jazz are going to be a little better than people might think. I don't think that they'll be one of the bottom three teams in the league.
Yeah, I can see that, but it's just I feel like that they're gonna probably try to compete for high playoff spot.
Yeah, they're probably gonna do that.
Yeah. So my number 12, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think with SGA, I feel like he could make an All-Star push this year, maybe like real close. Josh Giddey I'm going to see the improvement from Josh Giddey, the kind of jump he takes, I guess we see from rookies. I don't think they're, but Chet, you could have argued they could have made the play-in maybe, like close, not very high in the play-in, but maybe they could have got lucky. You don't think so? They could have got lucky, but I don't have them winning a whole lot of games. I think I had them around the 31, 34, around that area.
Wow, you had them winning 10 more than I did, but yeah, even with Chet healthy, I couldn't see them as a play-in team this year. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
I wouldn't say. I'll say they're like the 10 or 11 seed. I would have put them a little bit higher, but not much.
Go ahead and give me your number 11 so we can get into this top 10 because I think we have the same number 11.
Yeah, I got the Sacramento Kings. UF. Yep.
Yeah.
Obviously, young team: De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, Keegan Murray, Davion Mitchell, but they could honestly. They're like my dark horse to get to play in for the West. It's a reach, but I could very well see it happen.
Yeah. With the Kings, I expect one or two teams in the West to have injuries.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then the Kings are probably going to be that team that could slide into that 9 or 10 seed. But, without, predicting injuries, the Kings are at 11 for me as well. But I like their team. I like their team for the first time in a little while. De'Aaron Fox, of course, is your centerpiece. Hopefully he can kind of have a bounce-back year. Looking forward to seeing how he comes back. He's been playing well with Domantas Sabonis as his pick-and-roll big. And he hasn't really had great spacing before. He's got some floor spacers now with Kevin Huerter, with Keegan Murray. So it should be cool to see the Sacramento Kings play this year. I think that the fans have something exciting to look forward to, which is really all they can ask for at this point. And try to make that play-in push, which they've been trying to do, I guess, for the past few years. But I really like the addition of Keegan Murray. I think that he can come in opening night and really make a difference on that team.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So with those five out of the way, here is where the shuffling begins. The top 10 in the West was extremely, extremely hard to do. I'm going to start with my number 10. Jacob, you might think that this is a serious undersell at number 10, but I have the Los Angeles Lakers at number 10. I don't believe in them. I don't believe in the Lakers. I can't do it. I've got to see them actually prove that they are worth anything on the floor. I expect them to be a top 10 defense this year. I do expect them to have a great defensive jump, but offensively, especially shooting ball, we've talked about it. I think they'll be a bottom 5 3-point shooting team. And if Anthony Davis isn't available, I think that they'll be a bottom 10 offensive league just in general.
Okay.
I don't believe in the pieces. I don't believe in the makeup of the team. Coach Darvin Ham, it'll be interesting to see how he kind of orchestrates things in his first year. But the Lakers are at 10 for me just because of all the uncertainty. And I have them finishing right at 500 at 41-41.
My number 10 is the LA Lakers too.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow.
A lot of questions there, like you said, a lot of uncertainty, injuries. How will Patrick Beverly and Russell Westbrook kind of coexist? They both start.
No.
But but I got them also. I also have them at 40 wins. I had them like right at 40. So it's a lot of questions with that team.
Yeah, and of course we've talked about the health. Everybody knows about the health. But I think even if everybody is on the court, of course they'll be better than the 10 seed. But even then, I don't like the makeup of their team still, just in general.
Right.
They don't have anybody who can really shoot the three. And without that spacing on the floor, it limits driving lanes for LeBron, and it limits Anthony Davis to being kind of a perimeter player, which he can be, but that's not the best version of Anthony Davis, really.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that's number 10. Jacob, give me your number 9 first. I want to hear your number 9.
My number 9, I have the Portland Trailblazers. I didn't know if you'd have them this low. You're a Blazer guy, but I feel like with the talent in the West this year, it's like you said, it's not real top heavy, but it's thorough throughout. There's a lot of talent. I like what they did in the offseason. Jeremy Grant, Gary Payton II. I don't know if y'all got anybody else or not.
Not really.
Can't remember. Dame could be healthy, could be back and healthy. I just got him the 9 seed. Obviously, I don't think Dame's ever missed the playoffs. I believe we've talked about that before. So I feel like if it's not the play-in, they could sneak the way. If they can get hot at the right time, they could sneak the way into the playoffs.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got my Blazers at number 9 as well. I couldn't bring myself to put them above any of the teams I have above them. But I expect us to be a lot better this year. I think that we'll shoot the ball a lot better this year. I love our pieces. I'm excited to watch this team. I think they're an exciting team with Dame, with Anthony Simons, with the pickups of Gary Payton and Jeremy Grant. It's a solid roster. It's a solid roster in Portland. Like I said, I just don't think it's comparable to the top rosters, and especially with Dame coming off an injury, I think he'll have a really good year. But like you said, the other teams are just better than Portland, and I've come to accept that as a fan of the team. But I have Portland winning 44 games. I think Portland will finish over 500. I think that they will win games. I think that they will be a really good offensive team, as they usually are. And it's interesting to see how Chauncey Billups can coach this team on the defensive end with a lot of guys who can lock in, like Gary Payton, like Josh Hart, like Jeremy Grant, like Nasir Little. I'm really excited to see Nasir Little play this year. I think he'll start over Josh Hart, honestly. I think Josh Hart will come off the bench and be our 6th man. But just kind of a decent team. A decent team. I don't like our big depth. Our big depth is not very good. But that's really all I can say about the Blazers. I'm excited to watch them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun team to watch.
Yeah. Coming in at number 8. Quick disclaimer for my list. My 6, my 7, and my 8 all have the same record. The next 3 teams I will list all have the same record at 45-37. And the first team out of those, coming in at the 8th seed, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. I've got the Timberwolves at number 8 just because I'm curious. I'm curious to see how they mesh. I'm not really a believer in their depth now. They sent out a lot of guys to get Rudy Gobert, so their depth does kind of scare me now. They picked up Austin Rivers, I know. Their backup big depth kind of sucks with Naz Reid being their best option. Right. But the starting lineup is really good. The starting lineup is going to be good. I think offensively they're going to be fine. And I think with Rudy Gobert, manning the paint, I think that they will be a top 10 defense. So I think that numbers-wise, I think that they'll be a good team, but I just don't know how that can equate to wins, really. Because we saw them in the fourth quarters in that Memphis series. They just kind of fell apart. And they're still a really young team. So they're a year older, but
Yeah.
I think that their seed is going to be a little lower this year at the 8th seed just because of the depth of the Western Conference. So I've got the Timberwolves coming in at number 8.
Yeah, I can see that. I also have like the 6, 7, 8 seed really close, like a game apart. I think two of them are tied, but I have the Memphis Grizzlies. Now I will catch a lot of hate for this. I know, like you said, know a lot of Grizzlies fans, but my thing is, so Jaren Jackson Jr. is hurt. Jaren Jackson Jr. is hurt.
Right.
They didn't improve much in the offseason. That was my thing. Obviously they got better. They had a good stretch last year. I don't think they're gonna repeat what they did. But
Right.
and this was like nothing to be funny. I actually had them at 8. Just from talent perspective, like the injury, he might be out until Christmas or next year. And Ja will take another leap. I will admit he'll take another leap. But like I said, they're probably gonna try to catch up too late. It's just they lost Kyle Anderson, D'Anthony Melton. I think that was it. But I don't see them repeating what they did last year.
Okay.
I'm gonna catch a lot of hate for
boy.
it. But I've been prepared. I'm prepared.
I kind of knew it was coming. But
I know you.
You couldn't have prepared me for that. Oh my goodness. All right, Jacob.
My number 17.
Yeah,
I have
give me your number 7. Who's above the Memphis Grizzlies for you?
I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like you said, how they mesh. I think Anthony Edwards will take a jump this year. Another jump. Not it might not be a really big jump, but I really think Cat and Rudy. I was one of the biggest people that said they gave up too much for Rudy, but I don't know. Them just two right there. They kind of open up Cat more, kind of shoot a little bit more, but I gave them the edge over Memphis, slight edge, because they could have put Memphis out of the playoffs last year.
Yeah, they very well could if they would have, pulled it together in those fourth quarters. Coming in at number 7, this might shock some people because I think that this team is the championship contender. But I think that just in the regular season, I think that this team may take some time to mesh. I think that they'll have some guys sit out. And I think that they will kind of, like I said, just take some time to find their footing. I've got the Los Angeles Clippers at number 7.
Wow.
Yeah, seems kind of low, but I don't expect Kawhi Leonard to, play consistently, especially to start the season. Like I said, I just think it'll take some time to mesh. On paper, I think that they have a really, really good team. And who knows, maybe they come out and they're a top 3 seed in the West. But even when the Clippers have been at their best, they haven't been a top 3 seed in the West. We've consistently seen them finish 4 and 5, playing in the first round against the Dallas Mavericks for several years in that 4-5 matchup. And especially with just injury concerns maybe coming into the season, I've got them here at number 7 with the same record as the Minnesota Timberwolves. Just because of that, honestly, I think they're a great team on paper. I think Ty Lue is a top 5 coach in the league. And I think come playoff time, if they're the 7 seed, whoever the 2 seed is I feel bad for that 2 seed because the Clippers are going to be probably the toughest 7 seed of all time.
Yeah, I could agree with that, especially with the load management. They will more than likely do.
Yeah.
Was that the 6 seed?
Here, wait. Let me give my number 6 first because number 6 rounds out all my teams with the same record. So coming in at my number 6, I have the Memphis Grizzlies at number 6. I think the Memphis Grizzlies will finish with the same record as those last 2 teams. I think that they'll win the tiebreaker over both of them, though. I'm still a believer in this team. I'm a believer in this core. I'm a believer in the way that they play. I believe that when they're out and running is when they're at their best. Yeah. I think in the regular season, they especially have a great chance to do that. I think that they'll still rebound the ball very well. I think that they'll play good defense. I think that that might be hindered a little bit without Jaren Jackson for the first few months. And I do think that the losses of Kyle Anderson and D'Anthony Melton will really hurt them. Maybe not really in the beginning of the season, but as the season wanes, I think that the Grizzlies will be affected by those losses. I expect the Memphis Grizzlies to come out and start the season high. And I think maybe they have a little trail off going towards the end of the season. and maybe they lose a first round game this year. Maybe it's something that they look at and feel like they have to make some moves to their team. I still think the Grizzlies are a great team, though. I think Taylor Jenkins is a top 5 coach in the NBA now, but I've got them at number 6.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, my 6, 7, 8 are all real close too. And Ja missed, I want to say, 25 games last year.
Something like that.
So he could miss time again if something happens. And their depth, they did get a lot of rookies. I just like these teams with the tiebreaker, like you said. I just have these other 2 teams kind of slightly above in the tiebreaker.
Okay.
So my 6th seed, I have the Dallas Mavericks.
Interesting.
Yep. Obviously they have Luka, top 3, maybe 2 player in the NBA. I think the loss of Jalen Brunson will show this year. I believe they were the 5th seed last year too, maybe. I mean the 5th seed last year.
They were.
But they also got Christian Wood, so see how that kind of folds, how that ends up. But I think Luka really will. They did get Christian Wood, right?
Yeah,
I think so. I think Luka would lead them to a lot of wins in this year. Obviously, he's always in the MVP talks, has been the last few years, but I really think Luka can lead that team, I guess, to a definite playoff spot this year, again like last year.
Yeah, just building off of what you said, going in at my number 5, I have the Dallas Mavericks coming in at my number 5. I think that the loss of Jalen Brunson will affect them, but I think that they have a guy who can kind of step in and play that role to an extent, in Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah, I forgot to mention him.
I think Spencer Dinwiddie will come in and he'll be able to score the ball like Jalen Brunson did. I don't think he'll be as good as a playmaker as he was, but I expect Luka to really, really take another step forward in that department this year. He's already a great playmaker, but with the team that he's got to be a transcendent playmaker. That's just the way it is. It's Luka drive, Luka create, and kick to the shooters, basically. That's what their offense is. That's what they base their offense around, Luka Doncic. And we saw them have success with that last year in the playoffs as the season waned. I think the Mavericks are still a good team. I'm excited to see how Christian Wood fits. I think that his mold is a lot like Kristaps Porzingis, but I'm excited to see some of the things that he might do differently. I think that their bigs are improved. I think that Maxi Kleber had a good season last year. I'm excited to see how he builds off of that. I think that Dwight Powell could step in. He's in a contract year. I think that he could, play a role in that team. And Tim Hardaway Jr. is coming back, who's a name that we haven't heard for over a year and a half now. So I'm excited to see how he kind of steps in. I expect him to be a starter. And this is a guy who averaged 18, 19 points before he got hurt. So I do think the Mavericks are still a top 5 seed in the West. I've got them at number 5 winning 47 games.
Yeah, I slightly had, I forgot about Tim Hardaway Jr. a little bit, but Spencer Dinwiddie, I kind of threw that in there. I forgot to mention him, but that's why I got them high as well. Because obviously we've seen him do really good before, especially in Brooklyn. So I'm kind of hoping he actually does really good this year.
Who's your number 5?
Oh, on number 5, I have the New Orleans Pelicans.
Okay.
That's your number 5 too?
I just said my number 5 is Dallas.
Dallas. Okay, I got confused for a second, but yeah, I got the Pelicans. So you got them top 4.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm standing my ground.
Interesting. But obviously we have Zion Williamson coming back. C.J. McCollum, great leader there. Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, guy you're a fan of. But I don't know. I got them at the 5 seed. If Zion can stay healthy, they could be a top 5 seed. I'm not gonna say easily, but it's a really good chance they could be top 5. Great young core to go off of.
Yeah. You know how high I am on the Pelicans.
Yeah, I know. I was wondering where you'd have them at.
Go ahead and give me your number 4 too first.
My number 4, I have the Los Angeles Clippers.
Okay.
I'll talk about them. Obviously
just for a second.
All right, obviously the load management, but it's if healthy. They could be a top 3. I know you said around 7, but if they stay healthy, and I know they're load managed some, but if they can somehow balance the load management between Paul George and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, I think they could be a top 5 seed as well, top 4 seed really.
Right. Yeah, if all things go right with injuries, we know how good the Clippers are. And like I said, they're a championship contending team. But I just kind of expect some things to maybe happen with them. That kind of
Yeah.
pushes them down a little bit. And the difference between them winning 45 games and being the 4 seed on my list, which is winning 48 games, is literally a 3 game difference. So it's
Hmm.
not that big of a difference at all. Coming in at my number 4, I've got the Denver Nuggets at number 4. I've got Denver at number 4. There's somebody who goes above Denver in my eyes. But let me talk about Denver for a second. I think that Denver is kind of like the Clippers, but Denver has Nikola Jokic, and Nikola Jokic is going to win you a lot of games. And you've got the two guys. You've got Jamal Murray. You've got Michael Porter Jr., who are coming back from injury. I think that they'll take a while to come back and mesh. I think that their surrounding pieces that they picked up in the offseason are really good with Bruce Brown, with Kentavious Caldwell Pope. I think that they'll come in and have an immediate impact. I expect the Denver Nuggets to win about 49 games. I think that they'll be really good. I expect Jokic to be in the MVP discussion again, although he won't win it just because of voters fatigue. We know how
Right.
that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Nuggets will be a really, really good team, but I've got them at number 4.
Okay. I can see that.
Give me your number 3 before I talk about mine.
My number 3, I have the Denver Nuggets. This is the one team I changed like really like about an hour ago, but obviously you went over Jokic. That'll win you games. See what he did last year. Jamal Murray coming back. Michael Porter Jr. Bruce Brown, KCP. I think they're gonna get a lot of wins this year. It's if they can stay healthy. But I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to put this because I had a list for why I kind of had him at 3. I just forgot about it. Like I had a good reason, but I think with Jokic, they're going to win a lot of games regardless, like last year. But now he has the extra help that he don't have to do it all by himself this year.
Right. The only thing that I kind of worry about with Nuggets is the defensive end. They've got some solid defenders, but they're kind of not in that top echelon of the league of defensive teams. I think that they're a top 10 offensive team, and if you got Jokic on your team, you're going to be a top 10 offense.
Yeah,
But defensively, they just kind of scare me just a touch. I think that losing Monte Morris may prove to be a little big on the playmaking aspect because outside of Jokic, it's kind of yet to be seen who the secondary playmaker is on that
yeah,
Denver team. So maybe that is a little scary, but that's still a really, really good team. I expect them to win a first round series in the Western Conference. I've got them versus Dallas at my 4v5. I would take Denver over Dallas in the playoff series right now. It would go 7 probably, but I would take Denver.
yeah.
Actually, I will think that take Denver.
I would too. I'll take Denver.
All right, number 3. I said I was going to do it. They didn't believe me, but I said I was going to do it. The New Orleans Pelicans are my number 3 seed.
Before you start, you'll probably catch as much hate as I will
For
from people.
this,
From people we know about the group. But I said about the Grizzlies being 8. You putting the Pelicans over them probably. Which that's discussions we've had kind of off camera though.
yeah, I
So
foreshadowed this,
yeah,
in the
yeah,
hot take episode. That I believe in the Pelicans. I'm a believer. I love their pieces, and I do think that maybe it's just the youth that will hold them back a little bit. But in the regular season, at least, I expect them to take that Memphis Grizzlies level jump, like the Grizzlies did last year, going from the 8 seed to the 2 seed. I think that the Pelicans jump from the 8 seed to the 3 seed this year. I've got them winning 52 games, and they're just so well rounded with CJ McCollum, with Brandon Ingram. Y'all know how much I love Herb Jones.
right.
Just adding Zion to that starting lineup with Jonas Valanciunas. Um, the spacing may be a little bit of a question, but we know Jonas Valanciunas can shoot the 3. Maybe that's not something they want to fall back on. But
Right.
it is going to be interesting to see how Coach Willie Green kind of implements Zion into that offense. I expect them to be a top 10 offense. I do. I think that they will. Interior defense may be a little questionable with them, but I just think that they'll be so prolific on the offensive end. I think that they'll run a million miles an hour, especially with their energy guys like Jose Alvarado, like Herb Jones, and then you just add Zion into that mix. They're going to be one of my most watched teams this year. They'll be in my top 3. I'm going to be tuning into the Pelicans a lot. And one more thing about them, I think Trey Murphy kind of takes a step forward in his second year. He's been working out with CJ McCollum this offseason a lot, and I think that he'll be a 43+% three-point shooter. I think that he'll be a big weapon off their bench. I'm just a huge believer in the Pelicans. I really like their team.
Yeah, if they can stay fully healthy, I can very well see them get into, like, I had them at 5. I can see them getting top 5 easily if they stay fully healthy with all the pieces they have.
Yeah. And the way that my standings go, that would lead to a Pelicans-Grizzlies first-round playoff series. So that could be something.
That'd be fun to watch.
That would be very fun to watch. All right. Let me give my number 2 first, Jacob. Coming in at number 2, I've got the Golden State Warriors at number 2. I think that the Warriors will be the number 2 seed. Coming off the championship, we know how great they were in the season last year. They locked up on the defensive end. They made their shots whenever they had to. They got contributions from guys who had kind of been seen as outcasts. Guys like Andrew Wiggins,
Yep.
and guys like Kevon Looney really, really stepped up in the playoffs last year and gave them that boost that they needed. I'm really interested to see their opening day rotation here, because they bring back James Wiseman. They'll have Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody all a year older. So I think that those guys, all 3, could be implemented in the opening day rotation. It's just going to be interesting to see how Steve Kerr manages that team this year. I think that they've got all the talent that they need. I think it's just going to be finding the right rotation for them. I think that they're still one of the top 5 teams in the league in general. Yeah. I think that come playoff time, with the experience they have, I think that they are still the team to beat. Honestly, I think that they're the team to beat to this day,
I agree.
Which is crazy to say. But I've got the Warriors winning 56 games. I think that they'll be really prolific. I think that they'll be one of the top offensive teams, and I think they'll have the top 10 defense as well.
Do you think Wiseman could eventually start over Looney this year?
It would take a lot. I think it would take a lot for that to happen, just because of how well Kevon Looney fits alongside Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. The chemistry that they already have, I think that they like to have him on the floor with them as much as they can. So I think that James Wiseman running with that second unit is more likely to happen. But, of course, talent-wise, if James Wiseman proves to be the talent that we all think that he can be,
yeah,
I think we could see him start.
Because I've kind of went back and forth with that during the offseason, or really the last few weeks. I've thought about it a lot more.
Yeah, I just think it would take a little bit for him to take on that role.
Okay. So my number 2 seed, I have the Phoenix Suns. So I was really tempted to put them lower, but I think they're going to win a lot of games. They didn't really lose anybody like we thought they could have lost Ayton. I'm not sure if they brought anybody in or not. Maybe 1 or 2 people or players.
Yeah, not anybody super of note.
So relatively the same team. It maybe might trade Jay Crowder, but I think they'll get a lot of wins. I think they had 64 wins last year, or 64, 66, one of those. But I think chemistry is my big thing. Obviously, we saw what they did last year, what happened to them against Dallas in the playoffs. But I think they're going to get a lot of regular season wins, unless they rest Chris Paul this year. Obviously, he's getting older. The only way I can see them out of the top 3 is if they rest Chris Paul a lot, and they kind of don't care about the regular season. They look toward, like how the Clippers do, kind of look towards the playoffs.
Yeah, I thought about that, but what brought me back with the Phoenix Suns was just because I know how good they are whenever they're at their best. The Suns are one of the best teams in basketball when they're at their best. That's what made me put them number 1. They're still number 1 on my list. I know that they haven't really done anything to get better, per se. And especially with this controversy with Jay Crowder, where he's talking about not showing up to training camp and he's likely to be traded. I mean, he's a starter on that team. that would probably mean that Cam Johnson gets slid in. I guess you can say a piece that they haven't had over the past year and a half or so that's implemented is Dario Saric. So it'll be interesting to see how Dario Saric can kind of come in. I think that they should go after Jordan Clarkson. I think that they need a scoring punch off the bench. I don't think that Cam Payne is the answer for that role. He kind of had, I think, an outlier in that 2020-2021 season. Mm-hmm. I don't expect to see that from him going forward. We didn't see it last year in the slightest. But defensively, the Phoenix Suns are going to get it done. I think that they're going to get it done. And offensively, as long as Chris Paul is your point guard, you're good. You're going to be a good offense. And with Devin Booker as your go-to guy, you know he's going to get his. You know DeAndre Ayton is going to continue to improve. And bringing him back was huge. It really, really was. Because they'd only gotten better with him on the floor. I know that they had their playoff loss last year to Dallas, and that series was atrocious at the end. But I'm not going to let that series define who I think the Suns are. I still think the Suns are a really, really good team. A really, really good regular season team.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't pick them to go to the finals this year, but I still got the Suns at 58 wins because I believe that they have a really good team. Monty Williams is a top 3 coach, in my opinion. And the Suns are nice. The Suns are still nice.
Yeah, I thought I'd put them lower and higher, but I got Golden State as my number 1. You know, they'll be healthy next year. We saw what Steph did in the playoffs or the finals, but I don't know. I feel like they might. I don't think they'll rest as much like the other teams will, but I could see them doing it and giving a lot of the young players a lot more minutes this year. Kind of, I guess, try to see where they fit in the rotation, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
But I think they'll just. I got them at 57 wins. I just think they'll get a lot of games this year. It can really go either way with the top, though. There's a few teams that you could put in the top 3 that could go either way.
Yeah. With that Warriors team coming in at number 2 on my standings, that would mean that the Clippers and the Warriors are first round. Imagine that first round series. That would kind of equal like the Celtics Nets first round series, what it was supposed to be last year. So I think the idea of that is crazy in and of itself as a first round series. That just makes me so excited for the season.
Yeah, and I don't know who I'd pick for that series.
I would probably still lean with Golden State.
It'd be in 7. Either way, it'd be in 7, I think.
I would lean Golden State just because outside of Kawhi and Paul George, I don't know how much I trust the rest of that team in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be a great series. That would be a really good series.
I think it goes to 7 and it could go either way.
Yeah. Well, I expect to have a lot of engagement on this video. I think a lot of people will have things to say, whether it be on the video or to us just in text in person. I'm excited to see what responses we get to this video. I stand on everything I said. I thoroughly thought about where I put these teams, and this is where I'm going to stand going into the season. Of course, we said in the last episode, a lot of this will probably be wrong as teams play for seeding in certain matchups in the playoffs. And there will be injuries. There's bound to be injuries of some form and fashion. And a team that we have in the top 4 will probably fall out of the top 8. I think it will happen. It's bound to. It's the NBA. These things just happen. But I hope the engagement is good. I really want to kind of delve in the specifics if anybody wants to do that. But, yeah, anything else you got, Jacob, before we sign out?
No, that's all I got. But like you said, all of my teams are really close behind each other, if not right there with each other. So,
yeah, the West is a melting pot. The West is a giant, giant melting pot. Your list is bound to not look the same as ours, and that's okay, because at the end of the day, it's your opinion going into the season who you think. And I don't expect anybody else to have the Pelicans at 3. Mm. I think that I'm crazy for that, but that's
I've seen people put the Timberwolves at 1.
The Timberwolves?
I've seen people put them at 1.
At 1?
Like other videos I've seen, they've been at 1.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't go that far. That's a little ridiculous. Anyways, we'll sign out. We'll see y'all next week. We'll have Award predictions next week. We'll have player award predictions. We're excited to do that as well. But these standings have been fun. We've been wanting to do these for a while, of course.
Yeah.
And we'll see how they play out. We might revisit them in the mid-season, see how they look, see how off base we were. But should be fun.
I agree.
Yep. All right. We'll sign out for now. We'll see y'all next week. Peace
Yeah.
out.